Yo, this is Benchgamer here, and I'm going to be talking about leaks for Genshin Impact and Sumeru in this video. So if you are not into that type of content, then I suggest you leave immediately. Anyways, let's get to it. So yeah, this is the big leak for today. It has now been confirmed by leakers that there will now be darker skinned NPCs for Sumeru. In the initial leak, however, it was revealed by Blank that there are now black NPCs in Sumeru. Now, black is, of course, a bit of a misleading term for the Western players, because black usually refers to black people and that kind of black skin tone. But as we can see here, it's really just browner skin, which is perfectly fine. I think this is great. But I do have some concerns about how this will be implemented, because in the initial leak, Blank said there are now black NPCs in Sumeru, which suggests that this was an ad hoc change to the skin color of NPCs in Sumeru. And as we know from interactions with Sumeru NPCs outside of Sumeru, none of them really have darker skin tones. So that poses the question to me whether or not this new type of skin toned NPC will be applied to all of the Sumeru NPCs, or if it will be just some of the NPCs, or if it is geographically constrained to the desert region, as I had hypothesized in the past. Because so far, of all the leaked or revealed characters for Sumeru, the only ones who are darker skinned are also themed around this Egyptian artistic style, which leads to me to believe that the desert region will be where all the darker skinned NPCs and characters would be located. This honestly would have made more sense to me if it had not been revealed that here by Blank that it does seem to be a kind of an ad hoc decision. For example, Reese asks, did they listen to feedback? And Blank says, I guess. Now, I don't know how much access or how much to information or how much accurate information or knowledge they have about the design decisions at MiHoYo. So this could just be them not really knowing what's happening. Maybe this type of skin toned Genshin NPC for Sumeru had been planned from the very beginning for the area in the desert region. Or it could just be, in response to the outrage or the feedback or the controversy, whatever you want to call it, right? I don't judge. Whatever you want to call it, whatever was happening in the past 2 weeks leading up to this deluge of Sumeru leaks, it does seem to be implied by Blank here that this change to the skin color was in response to that. Now, my concern is that, as far as we know, the Sumeru NPCs, both outside of Sumeru and within the rainforest area that was revealed at the end of the 2.8 live stream, are light-skinned. And all of the playable characters revealed, except for the exception of Dahlia, Kendake or Candace, and Sino, are also light-skinned. So if these NPCs are all going to be dark-skinned, like here in the rainforest area where the light-skinned playable characters are going to be like traversing, then it does seem kind of awkward. So I don't know if this is like offensive, but I would honestly just prefer it if they just put these NPCs in the desert area, because it makes logical and like thematic sense, or in a timeline kind of way, because it would be really weird if they just retroactively, retconned the previous Sumeru NPCs we had been interacting with outside of Sumeru to this, darker skin tone. If they did that, I would also be okay with it. I'm just afraid that it's going to look super weird when we're interacting with like Nilo or Tignari, who are light skinned, and then everybody around them is darker skinned. In an ideal world, they would just change the playable character's skin tone to match the new skin tone of these NPCs. But I'm not high enough on that copium pill as of now to think that that'll happen. This is a pretty painless and honestly pretty easy change. It's just a slider on the color settings for MiHoYo, so they didn't really sacrifice anything, which was probably one of the main complaints in the first place, because it doesn't really take any amount of work to change the skin tones of these NPCs. It's not like the models actually changed. So those are just my fears right now, but I do think this is a very positive development. And honestly, it like some of the skin tones, when you look at this Inger, I think, clone, this skin tone looks pretty accurate to me in terms of what you can find in the Middle East, or even in some places of Spain. It's perfect. Some of these skin tones might look even darker. They might look pretty accurate for like Indians. I think this is a good range of skin tones. Maybe they could add in a few more. I don't know. Maybe that would like tax the memory of phones way too much. So who knows? Maybe it's just impossible. Maybe it's just technically not a thing. So I'm not expecting too much. I didn't expect this. They also revealed this Sumeru equivalent of the Crystal Maiden as this picture is giving me the vibe of. Like this looks like the Sumeru version of the Crystal Maiden, right? I'm not going to talk too much about her. I don't really know anything about her, and honestly, I don't care because people hyped up the Crystal Maiden so much because she looks hot prior to Inazuma's release, and then she turned out to be just a punching bag, and I fucking hated fighting her in the Spiral Abyss because she is literally just a damage sponge. She does literally fucking nothing except lock you in place. So I hope that's not the same thing for this version of the Sumeru Crystal Maiden, who they are calling an Eremite enemy. The Eremites are like the mercenaries of Sumeru. So I don't know what's going on there. I don't really know that much. And there's also another leak here by Blank that, yes, Greater Lord Ruka Devata, who was the previous Dendro Archon, actually created a wall between the rainforests called the Wall of Samuel around the desert. And her works provided a means of peaceful living for everyone. So this is a really huge lore spoiler. So I hope you're like actually okay with spoilers and leaks, because this is humongous. It basically means that there is going to be some sort of conflict between the desert area and the rainforest area, and it does, you know, explain why there is this transitional area that we saw in the trailer, going from this lush, beautiful green jungle area to this brown, grayish desert area, and possibly why we don't see too many of the Egyptian-themed characters right now. We still don't have any real leaks for Sino. As of currently, we have no leaks for Kendake or Candace except her name. And we do have a bigger, you know, we do have some more detailed images of the Hia, who is, interestingly enough, a fake cat girl, because her ears are not actually ears. You can see a more detailed profile view of her from the side. They don't actually appear. She actually has real ears. You can see them right here. She has real human ears, and she's even wearing a earring of some sort. So, for you furry fans, that's pretty much a giant, huge negative. But if you like Kaching, that's great, I guess, because here's another fake cat girl. And also, she looks awesome. One thing that surprised me is that this upside down pyramid jewel thing in the middle of her stomach is actually hollow. There is no jewel. It's actually a hollow, almost like eyepiece or something. So maybe that plays into the story. I don't know. But my overall impression of her is that she is way too detailed to be a 5-star, to be a 4-star. She looks like she deserves to be a 5-star character. And everybody else is also pretty cool. Kusanali. I think she looks way better here against a dark background than a light background, as we saw her in that group photo with the other characters. The problem with that photo was that she was literally just too light in that lighting setting. She literally looked like a piece of paper was used for her textures. But now here we can see that she has a blush on her face. We can see the indentations on her knee. We can see the indentations on her elbow. So it looks very good against dark background. The problem with the group photo was that she was against the green background, and her color palette is entirely just light white skin tone with light white dress and green. So all this green and white just kind of blended into the grass, and we couldn't really see anything. Another thing I really like about her, now that we get to see a full body shot of her, is that she doesn't really have boots or I don't know, what do you call it, shoes. It's just this kind of wrapping on her feet, and I don't know why I'm so like into this. Don't judge me, but I do like that it does give her like a more nature look. It seems like she just walks on the ground all barefooted. That's cool. I'm still not like the biggest fan of her design, but it does look better than when I first like saw it with the other characters. I think the problem with looking at these chibi lolly characters in comparison to the bigger characters is that it just becomes so apparent how disproportionate their body is. Like, they tried to make them look like kids, but their heads are too big and their proportions are all weird, right? Because they're too tall to be kids of this age, but at the same time they're too small to be like normal sized people. So that's just my new impression of Kusanali. Tignari, his model is just okay. I don't have too much to say about it. It looks kind of weird with his tail hanging out horizontal like this. His model is honestly just mid to me. I think the what's it called? The splash art actually looked a bit better. And with this kind of like T-pose, it kind of looks like his pants are going into each other because they're supposed to be puffy, right? But here it just looks like there's no divide. Kalei, she looks also a bit better as well now that I can see that she has a hood, and there's this almost this symbol on her hood reminds me of those like wall tiles in mosques, right? They have these floral patterns, and I think that's what they're trying to go for these Sumeru designs. It looks like one of those floral flower patterns that you see in mosques, especially like on top of the ceiling. And we also have these symbols on her puffy arm sleeves. So it is giving me a bit more of that Sumeru vibe. And as I had said before in a previous video, they do have all these jewels on them. They're wearing earrings, they have jewels on their chest, they have jewels on their boots and on the back of their boots. It's all over the place. But here I already talked about her. Her arm guard is just so detailed. Those things have polygons, man. Nothing else to say. It feels so weird because she has cat eyes. Her cat eyes, right? They're there, but she doesn't have cat ears. She has normal ears. Her hair just pretends to be cat ears, just like Kaching. Dori, not much else to say about her except she has pink hair and she has purple dress, which makes her 9 out of 10 for me. Like Kalei, she also has those puffy arm sleeves and all these jewels on her body. Like on her back, she has her vision is hanging from her hat. And on top of it, she has a pin to her hat with this jewel thing. And then she has another large diamond on her forehead. And these jeweled bracers here on her wrist. So, and on her chest as well. So again, all the Sumeru characters seem to have these jewels. Nilo, a lot of people simp for her. I don't think it's that great, but I have seen Twitter posts about how the tattoo on her back is inspired by a pre-Islamic Zoroastrian Persian design that imitates flowers. Her headpiece is also not actually part of her head. Those aren't real horns. Those are just decorative horns. That mirror, I believe, also pre-Islamic Zoroastrian design of a queen or something. And again, she has a giant sapphire thing on her chest, sapphire on her stomach. Yep, and sapphires on the bottom of her dress. And her vision is at the back of her, yeah, just her back. The most out there design for me, in my opinion, is Al Haytham, right? Again, he has jewels on his waist. And I saw a few more posts about this on Twitter on the symbol on his chest. And I might be wrong about the Zoroastrian design because apparently his name means something like a hawk or a bird of prey, right? And this is just meant to mirror it. So I could be totally wrong about this, that it's not actually based on a Zoroastrian symbol. It might just mean a hawk of some sort. And the way his dress is designed on his back, it also gives off the feeling of wings, right? And again, he has even more jewels on his back. He has 1, 2, his dendral vision, and then 3, and a bunch of those on his waist. It's just all over the place. I think it looks pretty good. I don't know what's going on with this headphone though. He looks like he's wearing a headphone, but it might actually be part of his body, in which case I would reiterate my opinion that he is actually an artificial being, just like Albedo. It makes sense because I think this jewel at the center of his chest is actually part of his body. Anyways, that's pretty much all the leaks. There is, I don't know if I've went over this before, but there's also a new enemy called the Gargoyle, who is a ruin type enemy, so it's going to be super annoying if they can fly since this guy has wings. I really hate flying enemies. I don't have any good bow characters. This is going to be such a pain if they actually do fly. But it seems like they have legs, so maybe they'll just stay on the ground for the most part. And they have these chainsaw-like tails, so it could be like, they could whip it around just like what the Ruined Serpent does. Also a super annoying enemy. But I think that does it for most of the leaks so far. I don't know if there are any new leaks. Let's just check before I go. Yeah, Dahlia and Alhaitham in-game icons. There's nothing really much to say about that, except also another gem on her neck. Yep, that's about it. New cakes. We have new cakes. That's whatever story spoiler. We already went over that. Sumeru local specialties. We don't need to look at that. Fargo, we've seen that. New NPCs, seen that. Yeah, that pretty much does it for the leaks for today. I think it's being... I'm more excited about the leaks now than I was in the past because, frankly, most of the Sumeru leaks so far have been really disappointing. But I think this change to the NPC skin color is a possible... It either means two things. It means one, that they were planning this from the beginning, in which case, great, miHoYo. Or two, they were listening to player feedback and changed it, which is good too for you, miHoYo. So let's just say they exceeded my expectations. Maybe it is going to be only for the desert area. Maybe it won't be. Maybe it'll look super strange when we get our Sumeru characters who are all really, really light-skinned, and then we have to walk around everybody else, all of these NPCs in Sumeru City, and then they're all darker skinned, which could look really weird. But I guess it's a step in the right direction, right? Can't complain about everything. Anyways, see you guys later. This is BenchGamer signing out.